Chapter 12. I don't remember exactly how long we dated before she told me about her childhood. But when she did, it surely wasn't what I expected to hear. She was born to very young parents. Her dad and mom were only 16 when he got her pregnant. They were not married at the time, and they obviously had no intention in her getting pregnant. So he did what most 16-year-old kids do when they mess up. He ran away from the problem and told her mama that he didn't want anything to do with the kid. I'm not sure how much time passes after that, but her mama ends up dating and marrying another man. It must have been while Kelly was still an infant because she said that she does not have any memories of him not being there. In Kelly's eyes, he was her dad. I'm not sure what he did for a living, but apparently he didn't make much money. She said that they were very poor. They lived in a rundown mobile home that was infested with roaches. She said that she would walk into the kitchen at night and turn on the light and see hundreds of roaches scatter. She would often wake up at night with them crawling on her too. To this day, she won't go anywhere near a roach. With what little money her stepdad made, it usually went to cigarettes and coffee. Even if there was no food in the kitchen, cigarettes and coffee came first. Sometimes Kelly would go to her grandparents' house just to be able to have food to eat. They were her mama's parents. They lived in a small shrimping town on the southern coast of Alabama called Bayou La Battery. So seafood was usually on the menu, and Mama sure knew how to cook it, Kelly said. Kelly went to school there in Bayou La Battery and spent her childhood like most kids. She wasn't popular in school, but she had a few friends. She said she remembers that when she would go over to a friend's house sometimes to have a sleepover, and their parents would always put her overnight bag outside because it reeked of cigarettes so badly. She went to school every day smelling this way also. I'm sure that she could share a lot more details of things that happened to her during her childhood, but I know that none of them would be as bad as what happened to her when she was 11 years old. Apparently, her stepdad had begun watching adult videos at some point. Most men that watch adult videos for any period of time, sooner or later will begin to have thoughts of physically doing the things they see in those videos. Some men can overcome that desire for a while, but if they watch it long enough, it begins to take over their minds. The evil begins to consume them. This evil ended up consuming her stepdad, and he makes the decision to start forcing Kelly to watch these videos with him while her mom was away at work. She said that he would make her watch it with him over and over again. And eventually he started relieving himself in her presence. It eventually progressed to him forcing her to do with him all the things that were shown in those videos. All of them. He raped her over and over again, forcing her to do whatever he desired, doing things to her little body that even a grown woman shouldn't have to endure. She was only 11 years old. He did this to her night after night, day after day. He told her that if she mentioned it to anyone, he would kill her mother. Kelly said that she endured this for almost an entire year, laying in the bed every night, bleeding from all the trauma, and crying herself to sleep. Thankfully, one day while she was at school, a teacher confronted her about it. The teacher had been noticing that something wasn't right and was able to talk Kelly into telling her what was happening. The school contacted Kelly's grandparents, and she went to stay with them while everything was investigated. They ended up in court, and Kelly had to relive what had happened and testify about everything that her stepdad had done to her. After it was all said and done, the court slapped him on the wrist and gave him probation. He did not spend any time in jail for the evil he had committed. Justice was definitely not served in the courtroom that day. And to make it even worse, Kelly's mom decided to believe her stepdad over her and accused Kelly of being a liar. Her mom ends up leaving town with her stepdad and left Kelly to be raised by her grandparents, never wanting anything to do with Kelly again. To this day, Kelly has never had a relationship with her mother. It is impossible to imagine what it would truly feel like to be in Kelly's shoes at this point in her life. To grow up the first 10 years of life, never knowing your biological dad, living with a man that you called dad because you knew no other, only to have him destroy you mentally, physically, and spiritually by the time you turn 11 years old. To hear your own mother tell you that she doesn't want you anymore and leave you standing there as you cry out for her. Most children that have to endure this kind of trauma never overcome it. It affects them so badly mentally and spiritually, they turn their back on God and blame Him for letting it happen. They resort to alcohol or drugs in order to forget. They separate themselves from people and never let anyone get close to them. Some girls even become sex addicts or prostitutes. It just never usually ends well for a child that endures something like this at such an early age. Thankfully, Kelly had some God-fearing grandparents that spoke life back into her. They took her to church every Sunday and put the fear of God into her. They loved her back to life and helped her stay on the right path. She stayed focused on school and never had anything to do with boys. She began taking dance lessons at the local dance school and figured out that she had a natural ability to be a dancer. She absolutely loved it. She would get lost in the music and just let her body move with the sounds. It was her escape from the world, her escape from the pain. She started spending all of her free time at the dance school. Between school, dance, and the church, she was able to keep herself busy and begin the process of healing.